fishermen in Borno, also on page 6 of the paper. Nigerian port loses 5.4 trillion naira in 5 years to absence of single window. Okay, I'll just take. Despite the assurance of the Minister of Transportation, Rotimi Amechi, the Nigerian ports would get a national single window NSW platform before the end of the year 2020. The platform still stocks Nigerian seaports in the country to incur a yearly loss of 1.0 trillion naira or 5.4 trillion naira in 5 years. You can continue reading the story on the inside on page 7. Also on page 7, we have the PMB mourns leadership founder's mother, Eunice Ndanusa Isaiah. That's on also on page 7. All right, moving on to page 8. ECOWAS court nullifies Section 24 of Nigerian Cybercrime Act. Moving on to page 6 again. Second Niger Bridge. Federal government commends NSIA Julius Berger on quality of work. Two students develop technology to check real vandalization. That's on page 8. And the major story there says, rising insecurity, which is paramount. Hiring mercenaries not an option. Our troops are capable, says our CSOs. And the writers to that says, ask federal government to change security tactics. Recall our ex-servicemen, says Khan. Cause for mercenaries worrisome, says Afeniferi. Ohaneze, AYCF, back call, says it's long overdue. SCF Northern Coalition caution against making political capital out of crises. All of this you can read up on page 4. And of course, the story of the $100. The picture is there on the front page. You can get a full story when you get the paper. That's all on the leadership newspaper.
Okay, we're moving on to this day. At the top of the paper, FG banks on Shell Total Energies projects to add 800,000 barrels to daily production. And the writers to that says, again, OPEC fails to meet planned oil production volume in March. Crude records highest weekly slump in over 10 years. And we have that on page 5. And on page 8, we have Second Niger Bridge linked engineering work completed to be unveiled in October. I think that's actually a good one for travelers, basically. A reduction in traffic and all of that. And we hope that this bridge is strong enough, because we don't want to get issues of when you talk about using inferior materials and trying to manage as much funds as possible, you then suffer shaking bridge, so to speak. We're still moving on page 5, we have 2023 presidency says PDP governors are delusional. And we have Obasanjo, Buhari is overwhelmed, Nigeria in serious situation. And the writer to that says, agrees with federal lawmakers to nowhere is safe again. Nowhere is actually safe again. ACF Afenifere PDP caution against use of mercenaries to fight terrorists. 7 of 11 coaches derailed to safety after train attack. 80 meters of affected tracks repaired. And you can read all of that on page 5 of this day newspaper. And yes, we earlier read celebration of life. We have a picture of the vice president of Nigeria and the mother to Femi Otedola on the front covers of this day newspaper. And we have Obasanjo, Osibanjo, Sanwo-Olu, Fayemi, Obaseki, Emefiele, Saraki, Dangote, others, First Lady Georgia Otedola at 90, and that's on page 10. That's all on this day newspaper.
Thank you very much. I'll be taking the Nigerian Tribune. Abuja Imam suspended over inciting sermon. And the writer that says, only Allah can dethrone, he says. That's on page 31 of the paper. Also on the very top, oil theft pushing Nigeria into bankruptcy, says Adeboye. And the writer to that says, I'm worried about current national malaise, not 2023, he adds. That's on page 8. El Rufai's call for mercenaries confirms APC's failure, says PDP. And the writer to that again, presidency attacks PDP governors over stance on Buhari's performance. That's on pages 8 and pages 25 of the Nigerian Tribune newspaper. Still on the paper, gunmen kill 12 in Plateau, that's on page 26. And the LEA seizes tramadol worth 53 million naira in Lagos, Abuja, and Edo State. That's also on page 26. And on page 27, we can see policemen reject 500,000 naira bribe. Arrest suspects with Arizona drug worth 10 million naira. That's on page 27, like I said. Nigerians no longer safe on trains, roads, at airports. Obasanjo laments. Nowhere is safe, actually. You just have to keep praying to God. I was telling one of my colleagues this morning, if a friend of yours travels or your relative travels and the person is back, you need to thank God, because that's the only thing we can do. It's really so sad how the whole thing is turning out. That's on page 5. Still on the paper on page 5, Abuja Kaduna train. Trouble looms over NRC silence on 7 kidnapped railway workers. And on page 25, don't let governors opposing local government autonomy. No, NULGE urges Nigerians. And moving to page 6 again, MTN named best tax compliant firm in Nigeria. Still on page 6, fuels crisis. Business owners seek federal government's intervention. And moving on to page 8, why I accepted to lead Yahya Bello's campaign organization, says Afsat Abiola. At the very bottom, unemployment, why the number is rising. You want to find out, you check out page 13 of the Nigerian Tribune newspaper. And of course, on the front page, you can see the cover picture of Obi at 80, and of course, the service of the $10. Of the $10. You can see the picture of the governor of Lagos State and his first lady and of other dignitaries there. That'll be all on the Nigerian Tribune.
Okay, on Blueprint this morning, we have the major headline. With 11 months to 2023 polls, APC will clear cloudy atmosphere to victory, says Adamo. And the riders to that says, I've never captained a failed ship. Promises party will move against anything that can cause failure. There's no way we can stop the electoral process because of security challenges. All of that on page 6. And we have at the top of the papers, train attack, 170 passengers safe, 21 still missing, 7 coaches recovered, says NRC. And the riders to that, 25 Kebbi captives held after 10 million naira ransom, wage total war against terrorists, ACF tells federal government. And you can get that, more of the story on page 6. I'm glad that they are beginning to recover people on the train attack. And we still have 21 missing. Hopefully they will be found alive.
I pray.
I just pray, because the level of casualties recorded so far, it's... it's
worrisome.
It's really worrisome, I tell you. Still on Blueprint, second Niger bridge, we've said already. Federal government releases 157 billion naira, says project ready in August. And we have on the front page, we have 2 different sets of images. We have one of Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority, and we have the order of the Inspector General of Police. If you want to know what's going on in those images, just grab a copy of Blueprint. We have on page 26, Dangote fertilizer to train over 1 million farmers in 3 years. That's huge. That's some empowerment right there. And I also read something yesterday. Was it yesterday or this morning? He's been able to make 382 billion naira in 3 months.
That's encouraging.
Very encouraging. Dangote is, I think, is doing well.
That's a businessman.
I tell you.
You keep wanting and
yes, wanting to make progress,
yes,
and also wanting to satisfy people, satisfy needs.
In as much as you're content with what you have, you still have to,
keep doing more,
move up
and get better.
Sustain yourself.
Yes.
Sustainability is very important.
Very important.
You can't be okay with where you are.
Of course.
You have to keep moving.
In as much as you know that you're
and that's
comfortable.
what business is all about. You have to keep moving. If you remain where you are, then that's where the whole thing is going to end.
Yeah, agreed. We have on page 26, our project in 35 African countries gulped $10 billion, says AFC. And still on page 26, Nigeria's position in Africa under threat as oil production crashes. On page 23, voting, we are shortchanged, says NAS Southeast Caucus. And on still page 23, unity of the country supersedes zoning, says Saraki. And on page 25, Fidelity Bank grows PBT by 35.7% to 38.1 billion naira for 2021. And lastly, on page 9, Osun monarch to subjects, fear of Fulani headers forced me out of town. If you want to read all of the stories, grab a copy of Blueprint newspaper. Over to you, Shab.
There's a lot to read on the inside of the Blueprint newspaper.
A whole
But
lot.
of course, I'll be taking the national economy. On the very top of the paper, pension fund assets rise by 156 billion naira in February. The story is right there on the front page, and you can continue reading on page 4. Okay, let me just take an extract. The nation's pension fund has set to move by 156 billion naira between January and February 2022. National economy has learned. To this end, it is now from 13.608 trillion naira in January to 13.764 trillion naira in February of the current year. So you can get more of that on page 4. Still on national economy newspaper, Nigeria loses 1.08 trillion naira annually to multiple documentation at the ports. The story is also on page 4, and you can... Well, moving on to page 5, Dangote Refinery Fertilizer Plant will ensure energy food security. Also on page 5, both targets $10 billion from international investors. Also on page 5, CBN warns bank against circulation of mutilated banknotes. Pardon. That's I think there's a lot to read on page 4 and 5.
Yeah.
And of course, there's always a leader to watch on the side of the paper. Francis Muyolade, experienced professional at LCC. You want to find out more? You grab a copy of the national economy.
Okay, we still, funny we still have time. I mean, I think we're going to actually finish everything today.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm excited. Particularly, it's going to be the first time doing that.
Yeah.
But let's see. So I have the New Telegraph. At the top of the paper, personnel expenses go up 449.5 billion naira in 11 banks, and the writer to that says, GT Coast, Stanbic IBTC, Fidelity record low cost. If you want to know what's going on, check page 3, the insides of New Telegraph. Mutilated notes, CBN imposes 400% penalty on banks, and that's on page 7. We have Nigeria abolishes COVID-19 test for vaccinated travelers. That's on page 2. PDP to El Rufai, APC's inaction encourages insecurity. And the writer to that says PDP governors playing politics of division, playing politics of divisions and hate, says presidency. And that's on pages 4 and pages 7. We have terror attacks, auto crashes claim 22 lives in Plateau, Imo, Kwara, and Osun states. You can read more on that on pages 29 and 30. And we have why accepted to lead Bello's campaign organization by Hafsat Abiola. That's on page 7. The major headline, State of the Nation. Insecurity has overwhelmed Buhari's government, says OBJ, and Adeboye says Nigeria's roads, rail, air no longer safe. ACF engage ex-servicemen, hunters to tackle insecurity, says calls for mercenaries must be treated with caution. RCCG's GO laments country's huge debt, poor economy, expresses doubts over 2023 polls. Amechi lied about bulletproof coaches. APC chieftain. Nigeria, a nation under siege by terrorists. That's a huge one. But if you want to read more on all these headlines and the writers, you can check pages 2, 3, 4, and 9 of New Telegraph. And we have 2023, unity of Nigeria supersedes zoning, says Saraki. And we have another rider to that, which says Nigeria needs sacrificial leadership, more active youth participation in politics governance. And that's on page 2. And on page 17, 6 countries dump 1.7 trillion naira used vehicles in Nigeria. That's a lot. And beneath the paper, we have Kalu to ABC, reveal presidential zoning formula, urges party to zone tickets to Southeast, says he is eminently qualified to govern Nigeria. Another writer to that says, Adamu, APC poised to retain power in 2023. You can read on page 3 and on page 8, study high caffeine consumption could induce heart risk. This I know, and that's on page 8. That's all I'll take from the New Telegraph newspaper.
All right, moving over to Nigerian News Direct. At the very top, we have the Dangote fertilizer to train over 1 million farmers in 3 years. NDLEA, that's on page 12. NDLEA seizes 5 billion naira worth of tramadol in 3 states. That's on page 21. Fidelity Bank grows PBT by 35.7% to 38.1 billion naira for FY 2021. That's on page 2. The major story there says traffic hike, multi-choice dares federal government, tribunal's judgment, Senate. And the right after that says begins implementation of 15% price hike on DSTV and GoTV subscriptions. That's on page 2 as well. Still on the paper, terrorism, no unregistered SIM cards on operators' network, says telcos insist. That's on page 13. Train attack, NRC confirms 14 more passengers safe. That's on page 3 of the Nigerian News Direct. OPEC targets, Nigeria's 100,000 barrels output drops in March. That's on page 16 of the paper. Police intercept bus load of illicit drugs in Lagos, reject 500,000 naira bribe. On page 3, and on the front page we have the picture of Head Internal Audit First Bank Nigeria Holdings, Dr. Bode Ogutoke, Managing Partner Technology Advisors, Pasi Udota, the Foreign Service National Investigator, Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, Ayotunde Awoyemi, Chairman, Association of Chief Audit Executives of Banks in Nigeria, Yinka Tiamiyu, President, Information Security Society of Africa, Dr. David, yes, Head of Growth and Partnership, West African PBC Technologies, Emmanuel Obasa, Chief Information Security Officers, Heritage Bank, Eduje, the Supervisory Special Agent, FBI, Robert, Head of IT Audit, Kalu, at the SSAN Hybrid Cybersecurity Conference on Payment Systems Platform Security, which held in Lagos last week. And that'll be all on the Nigerian Tribune newspaper.
Okay, so quickly we'll just touch a few.
That'll be all on the Nigerian News Direct.
News Direct. Yes, quickly we'll touch a few stories on the Daily Independent.
That's about time, right?
Yes, and we can actually finish. We have one more after that, the Nigerian Palo. I think you can handle that as well. So for the Daily Independent, insecurity has overwhelmed Buhari's government, says Obasanjo, and that's on page 25. I don't know if there will be elections in 2023, says Pastor Adeboye, and that's on page 29.
I really don't know why I just did this right now. But if it's a joke, because we really need that election.
See, the election is very important. Oh my God, really that election, yeah, would finish.
But the way
things are going, yeah, it's okay for if someone to even say this. I just
hope we don't.
They keep going back and forth.
We don't end up with a coup or going back to the military regime and all that.
I know this is not Mali. It might not happen.
Nigeria,
this is
anything
Nigeria.
Can happen.
That's true, though. The major headline on Daily Independent: experts urge Experts urge Naira devaluation to curb external imbalances, say measure will bring more forex trading to official markets. Want improved trading with other countries on non-oil sector, and that's on page 23. We have on page 29, God is owner of power, says Imam suspended over anti-government sermon. Wow. Okay, still on page 29, gunmen invade Plateau community, kill 10, injure 19. Why I'm leading Yaya Bello's campaign, MKO Abiola's daughter says, and that's all on page 29. We have on page 27, NDLEA seizes 5 billion naira worth of tramadol in Lagos, Abuja, and Edo, and that's on page 27. And on page 28, expect more attacks on airports, roads, rail, security specialist 1. And on page 27, still 2023, election unity of Nigeria supersedes zoning, says Saraki. That's all on the Daily Independent.
All right, Nigerian pilot, I've got a few ones here that has not been touched. EFCC chose Anambra's ex-chief of staff, Premier's Odili, over alleged mismanagement of public funds, as on page 8. Presidency blast of PDP governors over fantasy communique, that's on page 5 as well. And if you look at the bottom of the paper, 2023, if elected president, I will reposition Nigeria, says Mrs. Tari Oba Oliver. That's on page 24. You want to read more on that. At the very bottom, NNPC GMD's absence stalls reps investigation on the state refinery. That's on page 8. And every other story on the Nigerian pilot are the stories we've been talking about ever since the beginning of the newspaper review. I think that's much you can take.
That's actually all we can take, because we actually did finish it. I'm excited.
Thank you very much. It's going to be another edition tomorrow from 9:30 to 10 a.m. here on Lagoon Radio. Don't forget to like and follow us on all our social media platforms. On Instagram and Twitter is at Lagoonradio.Ng. On Facebook is at Lagoon Radio Nigeria. And if you want to put faces or you want to have a recap of today's review, you can go on to our YouTube channel at LagoonTV on YouTube. My name remains Taiwo Adeola Shabilibi, and I still have me in the studio.
Jennifer Jibril. Coming right now at 10 a.m. is the moment of truth by the venerable...
Venerable area
de Lego.
I can see how happy you are. I can see how excited
you would know why in the afternoon. Stay tuned, stay connected, keep listening to Lagoon Radio. We'll be back later in the day.
Bye for now.
Bye for now.
This is Lagoon Radio. This is Lagoon Radio.